Recording. Boom. Awesome. Awesome. So giving one more minute for people to log in and sit themselves down and connect up to the audio. We're going to keep this quite fun, quite jovial, but you know, as always, try and sort of cover some important points. This is a subject, obviously, that we've spent a lot of time debating and building sort of standard formulas and processes. So some of you that have been on our webinars before might recognize some of the themes, but you know what? It's just about continually reinforcing those themes in new contexts for you and just making sure that you can take something away that you can action. So we'll run through some of the stuff that you might have seen before. Now, what I do want from you guys sat at home, in the office, wherever you are right now, is I do want our audience participation. I do want you to chat to us, and I do want you to ask questions as we go. And there's a couple of points where I'm going to ask you guys questions, and I'd really welcome your responses if you would be so kind as to indulge me. So first of all, let's all just make sure we understand where the chat is, like we've never been on a Zoom call before. Just put in good morning, if you wouldn't mind, just a hello or a good morning. Just let me know that there's people out there and it's not just all bots that have somehow managed to log on. Yo guys, morning, 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 good morning, 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 Adam, morning, 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 sup. That's good to see. Excellent. Perfect. Right. Okay. So let's get on with the show. Now, today we have Jacob Collier, my esteemed colleague, who you can introduce yourself in a moment. I'll give you a moment of airtime if I can stop talking for a minute. Morning, 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 everybody. Good morning. Howdy. What we're going to do is we're going to keep it lively and fun. Now, like I say, I've got my esteemed colleague, Jacob, here today, and we're talking largely around one of the guides that we've done. So a slightly different approach today in that we've written a guide. We call it our Ultimate Marketing Automation Guide, and it's basically everything we've ever done in one guide. So it's a bit of a monster. We usually like to try and condense them down and give them in bite-sized chunks as different guides, but this is sort of one that encompasses everything. And the essence of the talk today is covering some of the sort of main chapters of that guide. So at the end of this call, we're going to put a QR code where you can go ahead and just go and download that guide in your own time and read it and keep it on your desk. Don't print it. Well, you can print it, but it's about 300 pages. That's a slight exaggeration, but it is 35 pages. That's quite a lot, I guess. It's quite a lot. Packed full of insight, obviously. 35 pages for you to download. So let's crack on. Let me share my screen and we can get going. And you can say something, Jacob. Just I tell you
looking forward to it, Adam. I'm looking forward to it.
How rude. Okay, let's go. Share my screen. Bada bing, bada boom. Microsoft PowerPoint. Awesome. Can we see that? Hopefully we can see that. Does that come up, Jacob?
All good from my side.
Excellent. Right, so using marketing automation to generate leads and boost ROI. It's what we're all in it for. We're all trying to look at how we get more out of this year, next year, and the coming years, using less and less effort from within our marketing resource and our wider business. So kind of an important topic. Let's move on. Quick introduction to me. We've reduced the number of bullet points on me because I've said it so many times. So firstly, my name's Adam. I'm the CEO and original founder of Force 24. I've got more than 20 years worth of marketing experience now. All of it has been sort of on the other side of the fence, never really sat in the client side, except from the marketing experience that we have within Force 24, working really client side. So my breadth of experience stems from sort of, the early 90s, no, not the early 90s, the late 90s and the sort of initial digital adoption all the way up to sort of modern day. And in 2010, I thought I'd invented an industry in marketing automation. And I've told you this before, anybody that's listened to this. I thought I'd invented marketing automation. Turns out I hadn't. But what's good about that is the fact that I came to the party with Force 24 with a need. 10 years down the line, we serve some 5,000 UK marketeers. We are a private equity backed organization, a well-funded organization with a very, very, very strong finger on the pulse, developing software designed to make you guys better. which always stems back to that original need that we identified back in the day. So quite an interesting proposition. And obviously the main proposition that we hang our hat on is the fact that we give you guys free training and support for life on this astounding 2-minute SLA. So from an engineering point of view, we're all about saying, we've got to engineer solutions that make our human capital, our people, our support teams, our onboarding teams, our training teams, and all the rest of it as efficient as possible to give you the maximum impact at no cost to you, whilst making us and remaining profitable as Force 24. So that's our challenge, and that's what we're fighting to deliver you guys. Anyway, enough about me. Jacob, who the hell are you?
Yeah, my time to shine. So I'm a product expert at Force 24. I basically conduct demos of the platform to people who want to buy it. I have over 6 years experience in marketing automation platforms, both from a user's perspective and also through managing clients basically in a range of different industries, essentially just to help them deliver their commercial goals.
So you started off in the CS function of our organization, didn't you? And you sort of spent quite a few years in the CS helping people achieve their goals. You then moved and went and took a small break and went to, which bank was it?
That was Leeds Building Society, that one, as a senior marketing executive.
Yeah. So as a senior marketing executive there, you were working with automation and decided this is rubbish. I need to go back to a proper automation platform, and you came back. And since then, you've been a product expert, which is a really interesting transition for you. And it's been a great experience to watch you thrive and grow. So 6 years in the industry, that's actually quite a long time. Well done.
Yeah, it's great great experience so far. Is it 6 years and plenty more to come, hopefully, depending on how this webinar goes.
So true. Very true. Okay, we know enough about Force 24. I've told you a little bit about it. Really proud about our clients. We're really, really proud about our retention rate. We are all about the customer. We're all about the customer. And what's really compelling and unique about Force 24 is, as Jacob said, we're based in Leeds. He didn't say that, but inferred it by the fact you're at Leeds Building Society. So we're based in Leeds, good old Yorkshire. And we're all about serving the UK market. Whilst we have aspirations in a few years to start landing in new territories, we recognize our model is a little bit like Amazon in some regards, nothing like Amazon, but it's that landed business model. We're all about saying, look, we've got infrastructure, boots on the ground to help you guys quickly and efficiently. And that's our engineering challenge as much as the product itself is an engineering challenge. So boring. We work with some great customers and some wonderful stuff goes on. So that's wonderful. But before we start, Jacob, I'm going to ask the audience to indulge me in a very quick question. Whoa, where's that question gone? It's not there, Rory. But anyway, the question was, today, in your world, as a marketeer, how engaged with automation out of 10 are you? So would you mind just indulging me, popping a quick number out of 10? How engaged in automation? 0, not at all. 10, all over it. 0, 7, 8, 5, 9, 8, 1, 8. Yeah.
I like the honesty coming through here with zeros and ones.
I do. And who is it said 10 without tools? Steph, good on you. 10 out of 10 without tools. So you are the automation bot yourself. Good on you. Okay, thank you guys. That's it, hacking the system. Well done. So yeah, okay, that's useful because it's going to help us sort of gauge the level of the talk that we talk. We can go geeky or we can keep it up top level. And Kelly, you're a 10 with an exclamation mark. That's bold. I'll come back and I'll refer to you in a moment. Okay. So first of all, you might have heard me do this 100 times, and Jacob, I'm going to get your take on this in a moment. I think first thing that we've got to do, if we're going to actually use marketing automation and we're going to embrace that technology in order to deliver better leads and boost our ROI, we have to think differently. We have a big challenge on our hands. The first one is connecting with our customers and our prospects. And how do we do that? We tap into that state of mind, that empathetic state of mind that enables us to understand how people feel. I've often said on these webinars that we're not just a vessel for a message. We are not that. We are a filter. We are a translator. The business is saying this, the customers want to know about this. Our job is to take this, convert it, and execute it out to the customers. Empathy is key. If we can't empathize with how people are feeling, we don't understand what's going on in their world, automation, no automation, it doesn't matter. What's important is that we can empathize and we can understand it. Understand your messages are less important to the recipient than you are. Now, this is an interesting one. Now, I look at my brand every day, 10 times a day for 8 hours a day. Every single day, I'm looking at the messages, I'm appraising this piece of work, I'm looking at that, I'm doing that. My recipients aren't in that boat. And quite often, and we'll touch upon this within the talk, quite often we see marketeers are sort of taking a step back and they're not giving them enough messages out to the book because they believe that we're over penetrating and we're not. So quite a lot of marketeers are being less aggressive than need be. And they're actually standing behind this curtain and saying, oh, we've done too much. When actually people haven't even seen this message yet. So understand that the importance of that message out there with the recipients and what you see here, it's all important to you. To them, it's a throwaway thing. They are not connected to it, or potentially they are connected to it, but it's very throwaway. So there's a disconnect, our effort and theirs. Rule of 6 for email. I'm going to talk to you about the rule of 6. I've talked to everybody about this so many times. Every webinar I do, we talk about this rule of 6 and how you need to develop your own. And that rule says, if I've got a message, how many times do I need to touch this audience to understand that I've done the best I can for the business? Holding a webinar like this, how many emails to this segment of data is needed? How many to this segment? How many to this segment? This segment might be super engaged. These, never heard of us before. That approach helps us maximize and squeeze everything we can. Now, the point of automation is it makes it easy. Understand your contacts intimately. This plays into that empathy thing. And always, always, always question, would I engage with this? And if we can do that as marketeers, these are some of the golden rules that I absolutely want to make sure that everybody is living and breathing by. Jacob, what have you seen out there? What do you know?
In terms of emails that come through?
Yes. Whatever.
Emails that I've had recently, stuff like ASOS when I'm buying deliveries for my holiday, obviously that's coming next week. I know, going to Barcelona as well, so that's not a bad place to be at this moment in time. In terms of actually being on that client side then and understanding what you should be doing, obviously there's loads of different rules for different industries. We've obviously seen, I don't know if we touch upon this later, but that deliverability perspective, you need to be hitting the audience once in every 7 days, I think we saw. So you really need to be consistently sending those emails out. And obviously, if your goal is to generate leads or drive revenue to the business, you can't really do that without sending. So. Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to talk about those bits in a moment. So I think the main thing is, look, as marketeers, let's understand our role. We've got to connect to people and we've got to think differently about it. There's some misconceptions that we're going to come about in a moment. So the next thing is, like I said at the beginning, this is all included in this guide. I'm going to give you a QR code in a little bit. Download that guide. It's a beast. It really is a beast. We released it about 3 years ago, and every year we re-release it and we top it up and we make some more stuff and put some new findings in there and refine it to our current thinking. So it's something that this has just come out. I think this is only a couple of weeks old. So this is a great guide. So we're going to be talking through a lot of those topics. Jacob, one of the questions that I used to get asked when I was doing your job was, but how many emails, how many times should I be touching my customers? A week, a day, a year, whatever. Do you see this much? Is this still a common question?
Yeah, we get this pretty much every other day. Right. Nothing's changed.
Okay, good. And the thing is, guys, a lot of people, this is for you guys to sense check, okay? And what I want to point out to you is that you've got this. The point about this is there's no one answer in anything you do. Because if there was one answer, why would we need a job? Why have we got a job? We just read a book and then anybody could do it. No, there isn't. It's all about finding out what your audiences are doing. So I want to pull, this is a specific thing that's covered in this particular guide. And let's pull this out for a minute. Let's just talk about this for a second. So what this chart is showing us here is that if you think there's the x-axis at the bottom and the y-axis is volume. Oops, sorry. Is communication frequency. And this is hypothetical. So we haven't put the actual numbers on here. This is for you to define, but this is what it looks like in pretty much every single case. So you've got, if I'm emailing too often, a bit much, the perfect amount, not quite enough, and too little, This is what it does to the open rates, the click rates, and the unsubscribe rates. So the interesting thing here is sending not enough feels like the safe position. Sending too much feels like the aggressive, dangerous position. But if you look at this, they're identical. Sending too often and sending not enough creates the same negative outcome. Low open rates, high unsubscribe rates, low click rates. So the point that I want to find out with you is, or help you find out, is where's that middle sweet spot? We hit that middle sweet spot, the perfect cadence, the number of times that we talk to somebody a week, and all of a sudden the email open rate increases, the click rate increases, and the subscription rate, the subscription preference rate will improve as well. So what's the right number of emails? Microsoft have an opinion on this, and I've talked about this so many times, and it's 3 times a week. 3 times a week. Microsoft, who basically own the email world, or 50% of the email world along with Google, they say you should be talking to your customers 3 times a week. Can I see a show of hands, guys? How do you want to say, let's just type a number into the chat. How many times do you talk to an engaged data segment a week? Let's just put numbers in there. Once a week, 5 a week, 10 a week, 2 a week, nonce a week, nonce a week. 1, 1, 4, once, 1. Yeah, okay. So a lot of people are working on this sort of hypothetical 1 week schedule. What less than 1 and 3? Okay, well done, Laura. So here's the thing. What's the relevance of a week? Why a week? It just feels like a comfortable number. I can handle it in my marketing team. But is that optimum? Microsoft is saying, no. 3 is optimum. And you say, well, no, we're B2B and our customers don't want to hear from us once a week. They want to hear from us once every few weeks. Or, but we sell photocopiers. And once you've sold a photocopier once, they don't want to hear from you again. But Microsoft's view is slightly different to that. And they're saying, well, look, if you're sending somebody an email 3 times a week and they don't open that email in 14 days, they don't open any of your emails in 14 days, delete them from your database. The point here is this only works if we're segmenting our data on engagement. So those people that are engaged, that are heavily engaged, they receive more frequent communications, 3 times a week. That's their suggestion. Those that aren't, let's pull them back. Let's put them over here, put them into a furlough strategy, and we'll communicate with those guys once a month, twice a month, on a much, much smaller frequency. But when they start to engage, let's talk to them regularly. So take that photocopier example. I'm buying a photocopier this week. I'm not, in case any of you are photocopier salesmen, don't shoot me down. I'm not buying a photocopier this week, but let's pretend I am. You can't send me enough content. But let's say I bought a photocopier 6 months ago. Anything you send me is pretty pointless unless I'm looking at buying a new photocopier. And that would be notified by the fact that I'm now engaging with that content. Jacob, have you seen any evidence of this? Or have you seen anything that you want to add to this base penetration argument?
I was going to say, I think the main thing here is just to not assume anything within marketing automation and always trust your data. And, some people might want to receive those emails and you can happily continuously send those. Others you can segment out and say, right, we'll treat them slightly separately, basically, because they're either replying and saying they're not happy with the amount of emails they're sending, or they're unsubscribing. And of course, obviously they'll be kept out anyway, but you get the gist of the argument there.
I think the point here is the mindset shift that I want to sort of allude to here is the fact that our job as marketeers in the past has been, how many people can we ram into our data segments? How many people can we send to? Let's get that number up because we get more out the back. The mindset shift that I'd like you all to consider now is, how can we take you out of our regular communications? Our regular communication streams is 3 times a week, twice a week, whatever that might be. So how can we get you out of that if you're not in that, if you're not in market, you're not engaging, so we don't risk this situation? So if I'm sending too often to you, Jacob, you're not interested in my tennis shop, therefore penetrating the base twice a week to people that aren't interested, I'm going to risk high unsubscribes. But then conversely, if I don't send often enough to that data set out this back end, what I get is the fact that, Jacob, what was the last pair of tennis shoes? Not tennis shoes, that's such a 80s way of saying trainers. What was the last pair of shoes you bought online? What's that first
Adidas.
you got online?
Adidas, nice beige Adidas trainers.
Okay, can you name the shop that you bought them from? You're thinking?
No, not off the top of my head. No, I'm sure I can look through my emails and find it for you.
Bingo. So this talks to me about a poor communication strategy. So I don't know where we bought our last photocopies from either. So if I don't send often enough, we know the rule of 1 in 6. The 1 in 6 says that if I'm going to send a commercial email out, on each distribution, about 1/6 of the audience should consume that message. We want to get that up. So in a cold audience, that means if I'm sending once a week, then it'll take 6 weeks to cover the entire base. So, Jacob, you bought those shoes from a retailer online that probably holds your record in their database that says, oh, Jacob's a good customer because he bought some lovely shoes from us. You can't remember their name. That's because they've not been able to match up with that expectation of how often they should be communicating with you to reinforce that brand position. So what I want you to do, and the point that I made a moment ago was about the value of what you see and their value of the message is there's disconnect. I'm in it all day, every day. Jacob, you bought a pair of shoes, you put your credit card in their website. That's the equivalent of going on a date with them. And you don't even remember their name. Anyway, so what's the right number of emails? The point is get yourself a framework. Get yourself a framework and build upon it. It will look like this. It will. But if you can start to segment based on that engagement, obviously automation's there to say, put people in when they engage, when they cease to engage. So you're just working from a data set, not messing around with data. You set the rules up. If they're engaged, put them in this data segment, and I'm talking to them regularly. Once they cease to engage, we'll take them out again, and we'll put them somewhere where we have a different job of work, and we'll talk to them separately. So interesting. Anything to add on that, Jacob? You're pretty happy. I think your data point was a solid one, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, really. You've got to obviously know your objectives. Is it commercially focused? And if it is something that's commercially focused, why would you stop sending to people? Just obviously separate those that don't want to receive it and continue generating revenue or leads from those that do want to receive it.
That's it. Qualify out. It's about qualifying out of that segment. That is so critical. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment as well. So qualifying out. I want to talk now about vanity metrics. Jacob, vanity metrics. What are vanity metrics? You do this. This one.
It's pretty much what we've just discussed there. It's kind of like, a metric that essentially doesn't really give you the value in what you're trying to really achieve.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. So let's imagine this. I send out an email on behalf of Force 24 and I get a 60% open rate. And I go, yes, 60% open rate. I then turn around to the sales team and say, wow. And they say, what? We've not seen anything. It's just been the normal day for us. So the point about a vanity metric is, a vanity metric is all about something that either you as a marketer can skew, or it's something that doesn't really contribute. It's one of the things that's so far down the chain. It's important that we have to keep an eye on it. So it's important that we've got to keep very close eye on what open rates are doing, but know that that's one of our metrics. And because we can skew them so easily, how do I skew an open rate? I just stop sending, I send out an email to 100 people and I know 20% of them are open and engaging. If I want to get that open rate up, I just take 50 of them out that haven't opened an email in a long time, send to the 50 that have been engaging. My open rate's going to be 50, 60%. So I recognize that is just as a metric that I can skew, but it's an important one. I'm not going to say don't play with it. But what I am saying is that if you focus entirely on that, you're going to be missing the point. And Jacob, the point here is about following the click, not the engagement, and the engagement, not the open. So I send out an email, I get a 60% open rate. So what? What happened then? And I'm not just saying reporting on clicks is the answer. I'm reporting on them what happened. So talk us through that. What do you think about this, Jacob?
Well, you're absolutely right there. You've also got to bear in mind the potential for bot clicks and opens as well. I think if you correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, in December 2020, didn't we suppress over like 60% of all opens in the system?
Yeah, correct. 60% of every open and click that was received was suppressed. As in, we've got bot detection software that looks at things and says, oh, that's a bot, that's a bot, that's a bot. So, everybody's got different ways of reporting that. And some platforms, MailChimp, for example, don't even bother suppressing any of that. So quite often, the open rate that you're seeing is skewed by that bot activity. So not saying we suppress every one, but we definitely are quite aggressive on it. But the point is, Jacob, is very valid. It's the data is potentially skewed, right?
Yeah, there's just no real value in something like an open, of course. It doesn't really tell us much about what that person is necessarily interested in. Obviously, that's where that utilization of the web activity comes into play. Obviously, telling us where people are going on the website.
So what about the fact that, okay, so I'm asking you to download a brochure. What's your thoughts on this?
Perfect. I love brochures.
Good for you. Good for you. So I send out I want to get people to download things. And the general principle is that I want you to download it. So where's the open rate in that? What's the most important statistic?
Well, the download rate, of course. How many people have actually downloaded? The openness doesn't necessarily matter to us in that case, because they might not have even actually accessed the brochure after obviously opening that email.
Yeah. So here's the point, isn't it? It's to say, look, some things are marketing metrics and some things are and those marketing metrics are for us to see, are we doing a good job? Yeah. Are we improving things? They're benchmarks for us to see if we're improving them, making sure that we got consistent rate. Split testing, should we use it? You know my view on this. In email, waste of time. In digital assets, got it. In email, split testing as a method is a waste of time. Okay, why is it a waste of time? Well, it's a contentious point, I get that. So the first point for this one and me is, Jacob, have you ever looked at an email and said, I genuinely don't know which one's going to perform better? There's enough thinking out there, enough best practice guides, enough information that says what emails should look like. And if I send it out, will the audience genuinely be able to tell the difference that I can't?
Exactly.
And I think the point is no. However, now what's going on here is the fact that iterative testing is what I think marketers should be doing. So if you were to take if you're testing paid ads, yeah, that's fine. Split test a paid ad with landing page creative or the whatever it might be. And that's ongoing. Whereas a split test on an email campaign says, I've got 20,000 people to send to. I'm going to send 3,000 this one, 3,000 that one, and whichever one wins, I'm going to send to the rest. It's made up. It's not real. If you can't, as an empathetic marketeer, tell the difference in that version and that version, which one's going to put, the audience won't. You might not, now iterative testing is different. So iterative testing says, okay, I've got a hypothesis. My hypothesis is that customers will prefer that style of creative or that style of message or whatever it is. And for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to stick to that style. And I'm going to collate the results of that style. And I'm then going to move to that style and execute for a further 3 weeks. Because the data that you collect then goes much deeper into what you can understand. Split test on a single campaign, unless you've got 5 million people and you can do some really smart stuff, the likelihood is you're not going to get the robustness of the statistics that makes any difference. Whereas iteratively, over the course of weeks, if you formed a hypothesis and you're testing that hypothesis, it works. You can see what happens because you're touching thousands more people. And I think that's a really important point to continually readdress. And the final point is about squint test. Do you do squint testing, Jacob?
Yeah, all day, every day.
All day, it's such a liar.
Is that a trick question?
Yeah, it is. Coming up in your appraisal, I'll mention it to your line manager. So what squint test is, where you sit back, you look, and you squint at any creative artwork, whatever it may be. And if it pops, it's there, you've won. That's the answer. And this is moving on to the next point, which, we talk about this quite regularly, and it's saying, simplify, simplify, simplify. If you can't build an email template in 5 minutes, then you you're wasting time. I mean, Jacob, obviously on the demos that we used to do, it was very much about how do we simplify our message and how do we build it quicker? Is that still a common factor that we get asked?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, people don't take into consideration how long people actually read an email for. And, it's how quickly you really need to attract someone in there. It's not going to really matter if that button's at top or below. It's actually what that kind of key message is, and if it's easy to draw out from that email. Yeah,
and that's the point. You sit back and you squint test this, the creative that's on screen right now. The message is clear. And it's I talk about this as well, 10 words, 1 button. That's your goal. You know, you're never going to hit 10 words, one button. I get that, but know where you are on the scale. Now, I know every time I talk about this, I get hundreds of different scenarios coming in. Yeah, but if it's a newsletter, we can't do that. And if it's a, we can't do that. You know, we've got to, no, this isn't for every context, but just the point is, if it's a newsletter and you're distributing newsletters once a month with 5 articles in, why didn't you just send 5 emails as the news broke? Why save it up and send it in one go? Because we know people don't read it. So wouldn't it be better if it was 10 words, one button, short news bites going out? And that's an obvious way to improve engagement. That makes a big difference. But the key really from here that I want to take away is develop a campaign style and stick to it. Don't move away from it. I mean, Jacob, I don't know, I still harp on about this. It's you know, I hate to see when the marketing department come back with a new design. Where's the evidence? How long has that taken you? What's your objective? And why did you change it in the first place? Do you know, I think it's important that you keep constant. Any thoughts on that?
Trust the data, Adam. That's all I'm going to say. Trust the data. They'll tell you when it needs to change.
Trust in
Don't
the data.
assume anything.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Guys, I'm going to ask you another question. Like, let me just check something. Right. Okay. I'm going to ask you another question, if you wouldn't mind indulging me. So I'm going to demonstrate a point to you right now. Okay. I need you guys all to lean forwards, a little bit further forwards, a little closer. That's it. Right. I want you to find your keyboard on your, on wherever your keyboard might be. Mine's here. I want you to look for the Y or the N key. Y or N. And what I'm going to ask you is I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And those 3 questions, the answers will either be yes for Y, N for no. And all you've got to do is tell me those answers really, really quickly. And the first question is, are you ready for this? Leaning forwards, looking for the Y or the N. Who's working from home today? Y, N, Y, no, Y, N, Y, N, Y, N. 50-50 split by the looks of it. Pretty good. Who's working from home? Okay, brilliant. Okay, second question. Who feels, now that we've started to return to work ever so slightly, they're more productive in an office environment? Y or N, Y or N, Y or N. Mostly Ys. Some Ns, some Ns. Okay, some N, no, oh, they're all Ns now. Prove me wrong. Okay, that's interesting. And the final one, the final question is, who feels like they're progressing as a marketeer sat at home? You know, I don't mean, just don't answer yet. Oh, you're answering. You can answer again. Who feels like they're progressing as a marketer? They're connected to the commercial world and they're aggressively racing their skills further forwards, sat at home. Go. Y or N, Y or N, Y, Y, N, Y, N, and then double N, capital double N. That's impressive. Y, yes, no. Okay. Right. Why did that? What was I trying to achieve there? I was trying to achieve a quick social experiment so that I can actually demonstrate a principle to you. The audience uptake that I got there was considerably higher, and I've asked you for things that had no apparent commercial objective to you. Nothing really that I asked you was giving you a, you know, what days your photocopy a contract come for renewal or anything like that. What I asked you were 3 questions that were going to help me form an argument that's going to better communicate with you in the future. Now, granted, we're on a Zoom chat, so you're typing yes or no. Fine, get that. You'll also notice that at the beginning, I said lean forwards. And I said, let's really find that keyboard. I gave you really clear, explicit instructions what to do. There was no ambiguity, none whatsoever. And actually, I did make a small mistake, because at the start of the webinar, when I got you to type some stuff in, I was supposed to not say type yes or no. I was supposed to say, you know, leave it ambiguous, like a marketeer would. And the difference is usually the engagement in that first question is we get sort of 10%. But the engagement in these follow-up 3 questions is 40, 50, 60% by being explicit in what I want you to do, by being slightly overt in what I'm asking you to do, but being engaging with it. And I actually asked you it 6 times. Whether you realized it or not, I asked you it 6 times. And this pulls into this human argument. We've done this so many times, Jacob. Everybody out there has got to know what this is by now, surely. So the human argument is what I did just there. I gave you no outs. I gave it a really, really simple approach. And I said to you, first one, stage one introduction. I introduced you to what I wanted you to do. I'm going to do a social experiment. I'm going to ask you some questions. I didn't actually follow this to the T, if I'm absolutely honest with you, but never mind. The next thing that I would do in a human argument is I'd introduce some game. Then I'd introduce some social proof. Actually, the order of these doesn't matter, except the last one, which is urgency. I'd introduce some loss. I'd introduce some logic, and then I'd introduce urgency. And I did most of that. I didn't nail it, but I did most of that in there. So this is the one that we give to marketeers. This is the freebie we give to you and say, look, if you want to expose the maximum addressable base to attend a webinar, download a brochure, whatever it may be, this is the technique you use. And I'll come on to the second point of that information in a moment. The first one is, let's do the go to the pub, Jacob. Jacob, do you want to go to the pub?
Adam, I'm just not sure about it. I don't think so. Okay,
stage two, social proof. Well, come on, Jacob. Look, who's going? Beth's coming to the pub.
Is there a Beth that works here? I'm not sure. Not sure I know her that well.
There's a Beth. No, there's a Beth on the webinar. Stage three, game. Come on, Jacob. I'll buy you a pint.
I do like pints. I can't lie, Adam. But I'm not sure yet.
Okay, four. Loss. Last time you didn't come, Beth was wild. She absolutely went off. It's just insane. You don't want to miss that. Loss. Okay. Logic. Put it all together. Come on, I'll buy you a pint. Beth's coming. She's wild. It's mental. You don't want to miss out on that. And the final stage, urgency. Come on, get your coats. We're off. Now, I kind of, if you watch that, you're in. You're in, by the way. Right?
I'm in now. Yeah, I'm fully. I'm excited to see Beth.
Good. I did do that in a roundabout kind of way, but you didn't realize that's what I was doing unless you've seen my webinars before, in which case you do. Now, the second point to that, as I've already alluded to, is the fact that the question that I asked you now gives me insight as to what your personal drivers are. So obviously on a Zoom webinar, this is just for fun, not doing anything that's important. But if I'm asking you questions like, do you feel connected as a marketeer to the commercial world? That's it. That's not saying come and buy my photocopier, come and buy. That's saying, do you feel connected? That's something that you can engage with. I click it and I say, no, I don't. So those are the you that said that I'm working from home. Those are the you that said that I'm not as productive. I am more productive when I'm working from home. And those are the you that said that they were feeling unconnected. How am I going to treat you guys differently to the guys that are saying, no, look, I'm not working from home. I feel totally connected. And I can't remember what the other one was. But anyway, you get the point. How am I going to do that? So I can't, but this is what automation does. It takes those signals. Those signals could have come from a click on an email. Those signals could have come from the fact that we had some content online. Do you want to read how to optimize working from home or how to optimize working from the office? Whichever one you click would give me an indication as to your current disposition, wouldn't it? And so I should be using that to segment my base a little bit, shouldn't I? And changing my message. But how do I do that? And we're going to come on to that in a moment. But the bit that I want to take away from this is the human argument. Jacob, do you recognize this in your life? Do you use, not this, but does it feel familiar?
Yeah, definitely. I think the key focus around here then is just obviously keeping that key message there at all points, but just approaching it in a different way up until you get that nibble at the end.
Yes. And so go back to the artwork, find your consistent template, find your consistent approach. All you're doing, you're talking about the same thing. You're just varying the attack delta. Boo, 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 boo. Sort of. So the point is, what we've got to do is we've got to talk more effectively to those people. We need a framework for that, human argument. You don't have to use that. You can adapt it and create your own, but that's our starter for 10. But keeping it consistent means that the effort that I put into the creative is much less. Therefore, I can produce a higher volume. We've already talked about the fact that Microsoft say that most of us aren't sending enough emails, so we need to step up our game. Therefore, we know now what we're going to send to them and how we're going to approach it. Sound good?
All good from my side.
Beth's still waiting to go to the pub.
I wasn't sure if that was directed to me or Beth, to be fair.
Right, okay, let's move on. I've got some awesome stuff coming, which we don't talk about very often. I want to get into it. Time is precious. Time is money. Email framework, very brief about this one. You know, guys, take this, read this, do with it as you will. You know, we tried to create the equivalent of ADA. You know, we all know what ADA is. Attention, interest, desire, action. It used to work in print. Does it still work on email? We said, no, I don't think it does. So why don't we just create our own version of that? So we created our own, and we said, we think on a digital asset, i.e. an email, attention, interest, action, desire, trampoline, interest, action. So the only slight difference is we've said, look, what's the role of this desire here? Because if you put in, we know that you don't put the action at the very bottom of your digital asset. We know that. We've got to weave it in, haven't we? So we can't weave it in there and put it in there without referencing it. So we're saying, look, you need an action on that sort of top third piece. Fine, got it. The desire / trampoline is designed to bounce the user's eye back up. Okay, so we come down, we see, oh, nothing to see here, bounce back up to the call to action. Or it's actually there to set that desire. Wow, look at that. And there's a little bit more interest and an action at the bottom there for me to catch up on that attention. The key 10 words, one button lives here. I don't care what you do down here. That's up to you. Supplement your argument by all means. Do what you want, as long as you're not wasting time. What about you, Jacob? What is it that you like about a well-structured, about an email like this? Any comments to have?
Yeah. So basically what you can see here is that key message is above the fold. You've got to basically approach that for two different ways. Number one, if you are landing in junk at some points, it means that key message is still able to be driven when it's pulled back into a plain text. And also based on that previous argument we mentioned before, people don't spend time, a long time, should I say, looking at email templates when you send them out. So you've got to make sure that it hits really hard when it's landed in the inbox.
Do you know, there was an interesting statistic that was released by a research company in Leeds. I can't remember their name, actually. It was a usability company in Leeds. And they ran this big study about how quickly the human brain forms an opinion about a digital asset. And forgive me, it's probably 10 years ago, but it was astounding, because what they did was they showed people digital web pages, hundreds of people web pages, and they monitored their reactions. I don't quite know what it was, but it was monitoring with brain thingies and thingies, all sorts. And the point was, this study was all about the reaction point. When do I form my relationship with this digital asset? And the output of that study showed that people form a reaction to a digital asset quicker than they believed humans were able to form an informed decision on. So it was like, we said originally, they said, oh, this was really interesting because, most researchers prior to this believed that it took 1 second to form an educated opinion. But this showed that actually that digital asset was appraised by the recipient in like 0.05 of a second, or some scan, really crazy. And it was like, wow, we are making informed decisions within actually a fraction of a second. So it's critical that we get this structure right and we see something that we like very quickly. And clarity is key, because you cannot get supplementary information to sell on that in that time frame. Go on, Jacob, were you going to say something then?
No, spot on.
Good. So that's a great piece. Just again, it's a framework. Do what you want with it, change it, improve it. You start from, here, and you move on from it. No, I'm not saying that this is the end of the line for this stuff. You rule of 6, whatever it may be, you take it and you run with it, but it's giving you a starting block, and that's what we want to achieve. Control the whole environment. What's this about, Jacob?
Yeah, this is literally about ensuring you've got full capacity in all of the data and emails and campaigns that you're sending out with your database. One of the key things I want to touch upon here was related to that form submission you've got there. I think traditionally, a lot of people, including on the websites, just have a form and expect people to come through it. And I think people really don't understand how important it is to engage with people that might come to that page, but actually decide not to submit the form. Maybe they've gone for lunch. Maybe somebody's come and put something else on the desk that's distracted them. You've kind of got to ensure that you treat them all the same, essentially in the same way, because, obviously they've come to that place for a reason.
Or maybe, Jacob, they've thought, this is so important. I'm going to go and have a look at their actual website, and I'm going to go see if I can buy from these guys and find out how much it costs.
Even better.
But in terms of a statistic, that's a bounce. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So let's talk about that. That's the point, really. Thank you for sort of sort of sharing that one with us. So it's about control the whole environment. So controlling the whole environment is, I see a lot of marketeers, and you probably see the same, Jacob, where we're all about building the email. And, you know, it's in the old days, we used to say on the demo, we used to say, so, okay, just talk to me about landing page builder. Which landing page builder do you use at the moment? Oh, we don't really build landing pages. Okay. What do you do with your traffic? Where do you send the traffic from, an email campaign or a paid search campaign? Well, we tend to send it to our website. Okay. And how's that working? Well, we're struggling to get an ROI on email, and we're struggling with it. Of course, because you've got to control the whole environment. You know, I've said this to you before on my webinars, a website should convert at 2 to 3%. A blog should convert at 1/10 of the main web conversion rate, 0.2 to 0.3%. A landing page, on the other hand, that you have crafted by hand with your empathetic eye and built to be absolutely perfect for this audience, I want to see you getting that to 15 to 30% conversion rate, okay? But interestingly, on top of that, what I'm just saying to Jacob is, Jacob's saying, well, you know, people might arrive at the page, so they've shown a lot of intent, they've then bounced, they've then gone and had a look around your website, because that's actually quite important to them right now. You've classed that as a bounce, you've not seen that. We're saying that automation picks up on these triggers, picks up on those signals, and says back to your marketeer, Beth, this guy's hot. We need to do something to Beth, or segments this guy in some way that says, you know, this guy's hot. But in your stats right now, he's a bounce or she's a bounce. And so it's important that, first of all, we're controlling the environment to maximize our ROI. If you're sending traffic to a blog, do so knowing your conversion is pretty much non-existent. Or it's okay because we just want to announce the blog. That's fine, that's okay. But know that the conversion out the back end of it will be quite low, you know, 0.2 to 0.3%. If you want to get people to a webinar, never send them to a blog. Has anybody ever done that in the history of anybody's career? Yes or no into the chat. Has anybody advertising a webinar created a blog to sell it, and that's the only means of getting in touch? Has anybody done that? Yes or no? Yeah. Ooh. Kenny. Kenny, what are you thinking? Okay, nobody. So okay, right. So we know that really. Oops. Yeah, okay, Andrew. We've all made mistakes, but the point is, you know, you can see how you're going to get, you know, just from maths, you're going to get a really, really low attendance rate as a result of that. So this particular landing page, this is awesome, by the way. We're running these live masterclass events, and anybody on here is welcome to sign up. They're free. We're doing them in towns across the UK, towns and cities across the UK. And there's a schedule of events on our website. We'll send an email out. Sam Holmes, do me a favor, can we make sure that we invite everybody to our masterclass series who wants to come. It's physical events. We buy you breakfast or lunch and coffee and tea or whatever it is that you want. And we just come and talk about stuff. And it's been really good fun so far. Great to see people in the flesh again. And we're doing them in towns all over. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Control the whole environment. Yeah. Happy with that, Jacob?
I'm very happy. I do know that there's about 10 minutes left, though, lad. We might need to.
Oh my God, you're such a killjoy. Right, let's move on. Lead scoring. Let's do this quickly because I want to get on to the really fun stuff. What do you want to say about lead scoring, Jacob?
Yeah, it's really important for any business to sort of utilize. It literally just tells you how hot or engaged someone is at this moment in time, and it bypasses the need to wait for people just to respond to your emails by telling you you're interested. Instead, it allows you to kind of reach out to people that might be interested but just haven't told you yet. So
what you're saying there is that it helps me with my segmentation.
Exactly.
Okay, so in my journey to success or purchasing, I'm going to go through varying different levels of engagement, right? Yeah. And the very end thing that we're all looking for is an inquiry, a price tag request, or a form fill of some description. But we're saying there's lots of little indicators on the way. And we as marketeers can use lead scoring to do that. And lead scoring is all about two simple components. It's about the score, easy peasy. And it's about saying, look, if you do something, no matter what they are for a moment, you do something, I'm going to give you some points. Those points are representative of what we think that the value of that action is. Opening an email, almost valueless, so we'll give you 1 point. Whereas visiting one of our high value pages, like a cart page or an inquiry page or something like that, that's much more engaging. So therefore, we'll give you 10 points. And what this does is it says, Jacob, you've got a lead score of 40 points. And Jacob, that means nothing to you, does it? It doesn't mean anything to me. You're 40 points, it doesn't mean anything. Until I compare it to Sam, who's got 20 points. And then I say, okay, well, which one I'm going to call? Clearly going to call Jacob first. And then Sam, you've not yet, straight on the phone. But the point is that lead score is just a way that we distilled it down, simplified it. It came from some of the big project we did with Aviva. And we learned that the more complicated it is, the more expensive it is, but no more benefit. There's simplify. So we created a really, really simple scoring metric. And we said, look, the next thing is the tipping points. Tipping points, right? What's a tipping point? Well, a tipping point says, when are you going to do something with that score? And what we're saying is, you know, we built this really simple mechanism. It's built into the platform. It's all native. Supply some numbers. We do that for you because we know pretty much what you want to do. And over time, those scores degrade. So if I stop doing stuff, my score will start going down. So Jacob's a 40. He's not done anything for a month. He's now a 0. Sam's still engaging at a steady level of 20. So he's still 20. So as that goes up, what do? And we say, well, okay, anybody that scores 0 to 39, let's do nothing. Because, you know, let's let them browse. Let's let them do what they've got to do. But we might invoke some digital retargeting, maybe. Anybody, however, with a score of 40 to 69, now that's getting interesting because the average recipient of our mails and our average visitor of our websites gets to about 20 points. So anybody that gets to 40 points is twice as engaged as the average. Therefore, it's worth an exploratory call. And that's what it's all about. And then anybody gets to 70 points, we expedite them. And years ago, we did some analysis on this. And we said, look, anybody in this 40 to 60 base converts to a discovery call at 12%. Not bad. Anybody in this 70 plus base converts at 24%. So we're identifying people and saying, hey, wow, you're really interested. Can we help you with something? Yeah, we want to know. It's brilliant. Let's go on a discovery call where we figure out what it is you want, whatever. Now, the interesting point about that is our price guide requests on our website convert at 28%. So 28% of those that fill that in go on to have a demo or a disco call. So it's saying that even though you haven't filled that form in, you might have looked at it and gone away and done something else. That data almost converts at the same rate as people who physically put their details in and say, I want a price guide or I want a demo. And that's really exciting to know. So lead scoring can unlock a huge potential from our base of people that are mildly engaged, pretty engaged but not inquired, extremely engaged and still not inquired. And if we can unlock that insight through lead scoring and then putting them into segments, that is it. When someone hits enough points to warrant a call, how will they be alerted to make the call? How can we be alerted to make the call? So there's lots of different ways to do this. I mean, usually it's done through a CRM integration, or it could just be done through an email, or it could just be done through a spreadsheet you look at. So using Zapier or Zapier, I never know how to do it. You can have a Google sheet on your desktop, your sales desktop, and then as soon as somebody hits that lead score, it just goes and sticks a record in the Google sheet. That's like a 3-second job to build, and it's really easy. You got Zapier, you do cool stuff like that. You know, there's so many ways to do it. Actually, you know, lots of things that we're looking at the moment in terms of product development, but that's one of those things that sales lead expedition that we want to be able to do. But that expedite the call can be done, I would say, in the easiest way is just emailing the sales guy. I'd rather it was done through a CRM integration though. We'll come on to that, but that's our job to show you. It's our job to try and help you get there. The misconceptions of marketing automation. What is that? Jacob, what do you think about this?
Oh, you throw me under here, Adam. I'm not too sure.
Jacob. How many times have we practiced?
It's just to send out emails, and that's basically it.
Yeah, so here's the point here. The misconception of marketing automation. It's not just an email scheduler. A lot of people, what I'm hoping that we've exposed so far is the fact that automation is about tracking. It's about analyzing data. It's about putting people in segments for you, taking them out of segments. It's about triggering communications at appropriate points of that user's engagement. Whereas a lot of people think automation is, I'll send one email. If they don't open that, I'll send it again a week later. Yes, that's automation. But if you're doing that, and that's the extent of your automation, stop doing it, because that's actually a really bad practice. You're just killing your email credibility by sending to people that didn't open. You know, you should reward positivity through automation and ignore nothing. So just on that point, switch that up and focus on those that have engaged and let the people that didn't engage move on. Work on the people that are engaging. So it's not a simple scheduler. I'm hoping that what we've talked about so far is enough to sort of open your eyes to that. Engagement curves, Jacob. This is the bit that I wanted to show you. This for me is the exciting bit. So if you can give me 5 more minutes, I'm going to make this exciting for you because this gets me excited. Jacob, are you excited?
I'm really excited. I can't lie.
Good. Well, listen, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Oh, nice.
So what the engagement curves does, and we've got, we'll send this out as well. There's lots of different examples: low value consumer, B2C retail, B2B, mid high value product purchases, contract services. Lots of examples here, but we're going to pick the one that you all know and love, and that's booking a holiday. So you guys probably aren't in travel agents, you could be in lots of different industries, but let's take the one that we all can understand. And this is saying when we book a holiday, this is what we go through. Yeah. So our interest goes up. So this is what we see through the website. Our interest goes up and we have a rapid spike of engagement as we're looking at lots of hotels, lots of different options, lots of different things. Can you relate with that so far, Jacob?
Absolutely.
Yeah, checking the filters, changing the airports, changing the price, whatever.
Exactly. I've been through that process.
Exactly. And you go to Barcelona. Then what happens is you take the night off. You perhaps take a couple of days off. You're talking to your wife, talking to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever it might be. And you're thinking, I'm just going to go around, cross-check a few other quotes, go to Expedia, go to booking.com. I'll see if you disappear is the point. You go underground. Yeah. And then we decide, right, we're coming back. So obviously this is the view of what the winning booker. This is obviously, if you didn't win, you wouldn't see this. So we now see that you're coming back. And before you do some more sense checking. You don't just come back and just buy. You do some more sense checking. And we see the rapid engagement increase to the highest point almost. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is travel. So we'll relating it. We then know that there is a booking to installation. That's what I mean there is that you booked your holiday, you travel. There's a gap. Yeah. That gap shows my attention span diminishing to the middle point and then increasing. And I give my most attention, the most engaged I am with that brand is the days before I go on holiday, the days before. And the opportunity to sell is the greatest at these points. Then I come back from my holiday, drops like a stone. I was on holiday 2 weeks ago in Mallorca. I can't even remember what it feels like to be sat on that beach. Can't even remember. The tan's faded. There's always a tan, but it's faded from what it was, but I can't remember it. So I'm in this phase here and look how unengaged that is. Now, what I want to now challenge you to do is think about what does your buying cycle look like? What do you think the intention of your buyers looks like? So let's pick something contracted. This high value product purchases in B2B. So this would be photocopier. This would be, I don't know, marketing automation, for example. Not that that's high value, obviously, through us. And what you can see, what we tend to observe is that this initial intel gathering phase, then observe a price check period and cross-referencing period, followed by a high-level negotiation, followed by a drop-off in contemplation where we're getting directors sign off or whatever it may be, followed by a rapid engagement to the point of purchase. But you see here, actually, look at this downward spiral. So in the beta, in the consumer instance, we see this drop-off that comes back up to the delivery. Whereas actually, we see that the engagement drops and stays just below this gray box, which is the commercial engagement zone, for as long as we want. So to get them back into the cross-sell, we have to push them into cross-sell, push their engagement up. They're not just there saying, here, have my money. We have to encourage them. We have to work with them. We have to get them excited to get them up. Let me find an example where, this one. In contracted services, you can see the engagement zone. This is the point when people can buy stuff is much tighter, much smaller. Now, what I'm saying about this is, once you understand, and this is you just hypothesizing, this is actually based on loads and loads and loads of data in our system. So, if anybody's got any questions about this, we can answer questions about this. But what this is saying is that in order for somebody to buy from you, they do this. Yeah, there's points when they're excited, there's points when they're not excited. Our job is to then map what we should be sending to them to support them through that transition. And here we've gone high value B2C, high value consumer retail like kitchens and that. And we've example, what would we do? We'd say, okay, when we observe this first down point, we're going to go with a strong commercial offer. We're going to go with key order nurture stages. Well, actually, sorry, this probably isn't showing you what I quite wanted to show you. But what we'd do here is we'd start talking about finance offers. We'd start talking about how easy the delivery and installation process is. We'd start talking about how easy the order process is, how supportive we are. And so if you map this out, you can sort of put these gray boxes over to say, look, this is what I've talked to them about when they reach this phase. And again, this is all about segmentation. And the point there that I want to get is obvious segmentation is butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. Well, no, because that model of how you've got lots of different people going through this says you've got butchers that are not engaged, butchers that are on the research period, butchers that are on the contemplation period, butchers that are at the other period, and the same for bakers and candlestick makers. And this is the bit that I want you to try and get your head around. This is so big, and it's such a big thing to debate, but I wanted to introduce that engagement curves to you so that you can start to think about how your data looks and then how your segmentation is going to change to support the buying cycles of a customer. This is before they've made the inquiry, but the point really is automation is the key to do it. Yes, okay. Brilliant. Do we have time to go through this, Jacob? Do you want to run through this?
Yeah, we've got a few minutes left. I'm sure people don't mind. Essentially, what this is talking about is the traditional way of just emailing everyone and treating them in the same way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
no,
literally, it's right. Yeah, literally just treating them all in the same way, probably with the same key message, and just obviously not segmenting any of that data in the relevant way.
So, oops, sorry. So there you go. That's what it looks like now, yeah?
Yeah, and that's the new approach. Obviously, treating the audiences in different ways. You've got the re-engagement strategy at the bottom where, first of all, it's not harming your deliverability because they tend to get less opens, but also you're trying to re-engage them at a much slower rate because you know basically how they're engaged at the moment.
So the engaged segment, as you can see, they're getting the most frequent communications. The audience segments, your butchers, your bakers, your candlestick makers, we're staggering them to make our load easier. We want to avoid at all costs that mailing profile. Bang, there's an email. Nothing, nothing, nothing. 7 days. Bang, there's another email. Nothing. I could have gone off the screen there. I want to get to the point for you guys where you're not connected to the marketing wheels. You can lift your feet off the pedals and the bike still keeps going forwards. The bike, metaphorically, is the marketing department. You are the marketeer riding the bike. If you stop pedaling, does your marketing department stop? No. Yes, probably. And I want you to know, well, if you take your foot off the pedals with automation, the bike still keeps going forward. It'll eventually stop, but you apologize. You get to, if you're running this through automation, what you're doing is you're building schedules at an audience level, and you're not caring about the data because the automation's putting people in and out of audiences and saying, hey, you don't qualify for that engaged segment anymore. I'm going to put you in this re-engagement strategy because you've not met the criteria to remain in there. So we'll take you out and we'll slow it down. And you can't do this if you, I can't remember who it was, you're a 10 plus engaged. I think it might be Kelly actually, 10 plus, but without the tech. You are just pedaling like this. And I need you to stop pedaling, slow down, look at the machine, remain strategic, and let the machine do the executions. So any marketeer sat above this machine is loading up the journeys, takes a very, very short amount of time, an hour, build the emails, build the landing page, build the journey. And then is sitting back and watching it for the next 4 or 5 weeks while that executes, but then builds another journey and sits back and watches that. And then we're copying that last journey and changing the emails a little bit and sending it to a new audience or whatever it might be. But the point is that the whole segment, the whole piece looks like this, and you can't do that if you're doing it yourself manually. And that's where we're all about. And these masterclass events are really good for this, actually, because we talk about that in a little bit more detail. Anything you want to add, Jacob? And I just know I've overrun by 5 minutes.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think we've talked about all the sort of key points in automation and trying to change the traditional way of thinking for email marketing and marketing automation, of course. You know, it's massively there to save you time and also help generate the commercial objectives of your business. You just have to do it in the right way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Has anybody got anything that's sort of burning that they want to invest another 5 minutes talking about, or a couple of minutes? Anything that they're questioning, or want to go back and say that I don't agree with that? Or are we feeling pretty much like we've spent our time on the webinar and we want to go get some lunch? Nice.
We can talk about Yorkshire or Leeds if we want. What do we all think about Leeds?
Let's not. Let's not. Listen, pub, let's do it.
Yes.
I'm up for that. Yeah, we're all Leeds. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much for your time, guys. A bit whistle stop at the end. Apologize about that. But as usual, thank you very much for your contributions in the chats. I think it's been really, really insightful for us, because that feedback helps us shape what we're doing. Come to our webinar, come to our masterclasses in person. We're in Sheffield. We're in, I'm going to say a load of towns now that probably aren't right. So go on our website and have a look at our masterclasses. Sam will send an email around where you can sign up. They're free. We'll give you breakfast for free. Imagine that. And you might pick up some stuff as well. So please come and see us, or book in a demo. And I'm going to put this up now. Anybody that wants to download that automation guide, scan that QR code and do it. More importantly, get yourself on a demo with Jacob or Steve or Mark, and have a real in-depth chat about these things. And have a look and see if we can actually save you a bit of time. I think there's some great people on there that, you know, I love the responses that we've been getting. Just talk to us. We might be able to help you. All right. Brilliant. Thank you very much. What is the for insurance-based service? Yes, we do have one. So listen, talk to Jacob, get on demo. Jacob will show you the insurance services one. So thank you, Adam. Appreciate that. Thanks, Steph. All right, guys, have a great day. I'm going to leave the screen on for a moment, and I'm going to jump off, clear my video. Oops, sorry about that. And then so you can scan the QR code at your leisure, but we're going to jump off. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.